The sunk cost fallacy is extremely interesting. Basically what it does, it refers to how people continue with a behavior or a project based upon the emotional and financial investment that they have already made. In a nutshell, it's the justification of increased investment based on the cumulative prior investment, despite new evidence suggesting that the cost, beginning immediately, of continuing the decision outweighs the expected benefit. One reason for this behavior, identified by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, is loss aversion. This means people are generally less willing to accept a loss than make a gain, and so have the tendency to avoid losses. The sunk cost fallacy comes up most commonly with respect to large systems of records like marketing automation or enterprise resource planning systems like SAP or Microsoft Dynamics, for example. Now, I know that this may not be the perfect representation of the sunk cost fallacy, since subscription-based pricing means there are future outlays expected, but in a SaaS world, this is one of the closest variations. Now, what's common though is that these are usually significant purchases, not only in terms of money, both upfront and ongoing, but also in terms of people and process. Usually, the whole sales cycle involves many sales, marketing, finance, and HR people. Not to mention the IT organization that are involved in the purchase, operation, and integration of those systems. This means that people who have incurred a sunk cost also tend to overestimate the probability that a project will be successful compared to those who have not been subject to a sunk cost. The fallacy may be the result of a combination of factors. For example, a bias caused by an ongoing commitment, or the status quo bias, or cognitive dissonance, or plausibility deniability, regret avoidance. There's a bunch of factors. What all these biases does is that they make people less willing to accept failure and halt their behavior. So the reason why the sunk cost fallacy is a problem is because it puts blinders on people. Obsessed with sunk cost, we're pretty much unable to make rational calculations about what action will result in the most benefit. So there are a couple of ways to prevent us from falling victim to the lure of chasing after sunk costs. First thing that you need to think about is opportunity costs. What are you giving up in order to chase those sunk costs? So picture this from the other side, from the vendor side of things. You picture a company that spent millions of dollars developing a product, and the early market feedback is negative. Instead of further investment and continuing to push the product, what about taking those resources and putting it towards another project that has a higher return? And the second way to combat this is to avoid committing to a specific outcome. So the insidious thing about the sunk cost fallacy is that there's a hidden social aspect to it, right? It's bad enough that we feel an innate drive to try to recover sunk cost. That's one thing. But it's made worse when you're part of a team and you feel that people are watching and judging because you're publicly committed to a specific outcome. But this one is really easy because, hey, the world is way too random for us to be able to declare victory 100% of the time. So if you're going to publicly commit to an outcome, then you better have a mastery over the inputs to that outcome. People who work in marketing, they are very prone to the fallacy because they monitor and optimize campaigns using vanity metrics, which show really no correlation with the business's bottom line. More often than not, there's really no correlation between these metrics and real-world business impact. Yet many marketers continue to spend time and money reporting on these metrics because they have invested so much effort into such reporting. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't an easy problem to solve, whether it is internally or externally. And with the fact that there's an ongoing spending in any company, the problem may persist. But people get past it all the time. The whole point here is, if you're going to flirt with the sunk cost fallacy, do it intentionally, with your eyes open. Make it a conscious choice, not blindly like everyone else.